Great. Welcome everyone to the regular session of council for the 10th day of February 2026. Just before I call the meeting to order, I want to remind everyone that this evening's meeting is being live streamed via our YouTube channel. So welcome to the folks that are in the body of the council chambers. Welcome to those folks that are at home watching, and welcome to those that will watch us at a later date. Having said all that, we'll start with our opening proceedings, which is the playing of our national anthem. I will ask the folks that are in the body of the council chambers to stand and face the flags. Thank you, folks. We'll start this evening's meeting off with our closed session. We'll look for a motion to rise and report from our closed session that we had earlier this evening. Moved by Deputy Mayor Calver, seconded by Councillor Martin. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion is carried. I would like to report, and we'll do these in three different motions, I imagine, Madam Clerk. I'd like to report that in closed session this evening, we received confidential report SR-1173-2026 cemetery with a recommendation that council receive for information the confidential report, cemetery report, and further that council approve the mapping option two as presented in the report, and further that council authorize and direct staff to proceed with the staff recommendation as outlined in the report. So we'll look for motion on that one. Moved by Deputy Mayor Calver, seconded by Councillor Martin. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion is carried. The next matter was confidential SR-1188-2026 cemetery that council received for information the confidential SR-1188-2026 cemetery report, and further that council authorize and direct staff to proceed with the staff recommendation as outlined in the report. Moved by Councillor Davey, seconded by Councillor Shank. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion is carried. And finally, confidential SR-1202-2026 agreement legal advice that council received for information the confidential agreement legal advice report, and further that council direct staff to proceed with option B as outlined in the report, and further that council direct staff to bring forward an open session report regarding the agreement as soon as practicable. Moved by Councillor Shank, seconded by Councillor Davey. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? The motion's carried. Look for a motion to adopt the agenda as presented. Moved by Councillor Martin, seconded by Deputy Mayor Calver. There's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? The motion's carried. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof? Seeing none. We'll start this evening again with the public meeting under the authority of the Planning Act. Look for a motion to convene the public meeting. Moved by Deputy Mayor Calver, seconded by Councillor Davey. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed, motion is carried. First matter up is the applicant is the Boulevard Group 342 and 364 Center Street to facilitate the development of a vacant building on the subject lands into a self-service laundry with accessory wash and fold service and a water filling establishment. And I'll ask, is there anyone in the body of the council chambers to speak for or against this matter this evening? Welcome, sir. And I think you're here for the proponent, if I'm not mistaken. If I just get you to identify yourself when you get to the microphone. We got some new microphones up there now, so all you do is push the button and it stays on. But you have to remember to push the button to turn it off. If not, everybody at home will hear everything that you're doing there. So if you could just get your name for the clerk, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My name is Jason Sands. I'm a registered professional planner, and on behalf of the Boulevard Group, I'm here speaking to 342, 364 Center Street.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Natton, whenever you're ready, the floor be yours.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you. So this evening, there will be a statutory public meeting held for the application for Center Street. The purpose as provided is to utilize the vacant building and increase the permitted uses, as well as rezone the underlying zone category. The agent on behalf of the owner is here to provide a presentation. I'll pass it over now to Mr. Jason Sands.
Thanks, Dave. Appreciate it. Next slide, please. Oh, I guess I'm supposed to do that. Yeah, thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. I'll run through a PowerPoint fairly quickly and leave it for questions if any member of council or the public may choose to ask at the conclusion of the presentation. As Mr. Nanton alluded to, we're proposing to rezone the property from a general industrial M2 zone to an arterial commercial site-specific zone to facilitate two additional uses beyond what you would standard or typically find in an arterial commercial zone, which is a laundry service, self-service laundry establishment or facility, as well as a wash and fold service that goes along with that, and a water filling station. Just to be clear up front, all these uses are proposed to be occupied internally to the existing buildings on site. There's no changes, no additions, no new development, if you will, from the streetscape that you would envision should this pass and the development proceed. It's dual address, so 342, 364, and we understand that a future site plan control application is required, given the fact it's a commercial use. We will be subject to site plan in the future should this application proceed. Just a quick excerpt to show that it's currently zone M2. Next. Sorry. Next slide shows an aerial image, shows the existing buildings in yellow on the property. It's about a 0.9 hectare property, fairly good size, former Rona building. I think everyone's probably familiar with it. 3 principal buildings, an accessory building in the rear to the westernmost portion. Large sort of asphalt parking lot. North is vacant land, but occupied by the agricultural operation. Along around wrapping into the west and to the south. There's some commercial uses along Center Street in that area. Just photos from the site to remind you if you haven't driven by it recently. Quite heavily asphalted, impermeable surfaces. None of that's proposed to change. Again, none of the buildings are proposed to change. We're trying to broaden, if you will, the uses, permitted uses to allow for additional uses inside these existing buildings. The southern building on the site is the one that's proposed to be occupied with the laundry and the water filling station. The other two are to remain vacant at this time. The water filling establishment, they are local to our area. There's a couple in Kingston. Not necessarily do I know of one in Napanee. Your zoning bylaw doesn't define a water filling establishment, so we've proposed a definition here on the screen that we would introduce through the site-specific zone. The self-serve laundry facility, wash and fold service, could really be captured under your coin-operated laundry definition that's already included. So we're not looking to amend any of those definitions, rather default to the C2 zone that allows for those. This is a concept plan. Again, it's not very exciting. Nothing's changing. Internal floor plans, again, propose to reconfigure the interior of the building, all subject to building permit processes. Laundry service facility, how the internal configuration of that would lay out. Proposed uses, I just wanted to put them all on the screen so that everyone is aware. C2 zone is sort of the parent zone, allowing for several uses, nursery, convenience store, etc. But water filling establishment being noted as the addition through the site specific. I'm going to fly through these. Provincial planning statement, very high level. It's a settlement area. It's where you're directing growth. It's fully serviced. It's what we're looking for from a planning point of view. County OP, again, it's a focused area of growth. It's where we're trying to drive development. Towns OP, same thing. The one thing that I do want to point out, it's on water and sewer, of course, as you know, but the health unit, Southeast Public Health, it's now called, no longer KFL&A Public Health. We've been in constant communication with them as to what their level of regulation or detail would be. And they support the project. They have no issue. There's proposed to be a rinsing station. It differs if it's being filled by a patron versus being filled by a staff member. And it also differs if it's proposed to be a sanitizing station versus a rinsing station. So all that's being fleshed out between the owner and the health unit. It's designated, subject property is designated mixed-use corridor in the OP, and there's no hazards. There's karst topography potential, but we're not changing anything on the ground. So in conclusion, again, health unit, I mistakenly titled it KFL&A, but it's called Southeast now, has no concerns. Zoning bylaw, in our opinion, meets the intent of the policies coming down from the provincial level, county level, and your OP at the town level. We looked at it both from the existing OP as well as the draft OP that's currently in process. And again, we recognize that things like access, parking, accessibility, ramps, et cetera, all that being subject to site plan control. So we'll be filing a site plan in the near future should this go as planned. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Sands. Is there any questions or comments for either Mr. Sands or Mr. Nat with respect to the applications before us? Seeing none, thank you, gentlemen, and we'll move on to the next one, which is applicant Melissa Spratt, Palace Childcare, 237 Newburgh Road, to permit one-story childcare facility. And once again, is there anyone in the body of the council chambers to speak for or against this application? Good evening, sir. I know you're here for the applicant. Did you want to come up to the front, or did you want to wait and see if we had any questions for you?
Presentation.
Perfect. Come on up then. We'll get you to come up to the front, and we'll get you to give the clerk your name. And again, we've got the new microphones there, so you just have to push the button and it stays on all by itself. You just have to remember to turn it off when you're done speaking, because folks at home will be able to hear everything if you don't. So go ahead, sir. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good evening. My name is Sean Leger, Principal Planner with RFA Planning Consultant. I'm the agent for this application. With me here is the applicant and purchaser of the subject property, Melissa Spratt. I was retained in November of 2025 to prepare a planning justification report in support of the subject rezoning of the site known as 237 Newburgh Road. In my presentation, I will review the site context, details of the proposed development, along with findings of the required technical studies, and summarize the subject rezoning application and planning overview for your consideration this evening. It is understood this is a public meeting for the application only to receive any comments, and that staff will be bringing the application forward and making a recommendation at the next available council meeting. Which button do I press? Just the center one, the big one. For those of you not familiar with the site, it is located just east of Camden Road, where Industrial Boulevard changes to Newburgh Road, also known as County Road 1, in the northeast portion of the Napanee urban area. Its official planned land use designation is medium density residential. It is currently within the residential type 5 exception, R5-5 zone. Uses surrounding the site are vacant to the north. However, single detached, semi-detached, and townhouse dwellings are located to the east, south, and west. The site's area is approximately 2,400 square meters with 47 meters of frontage on the north side of Newburgh Road. A number of plans and reports have been prepared in support of the subject rezoning that I will summarize in a moment. First, I wish to describe the site plan, which will consist of a 588 square meter childcare facility with 121 care spaces. The proposed daycare building will be 1 story. The site will function on a one-way access, the easterly entrance seen on this slide, and a two-way access, the westerly entrance. The purpose of this arrangement is to accommodate a dedicated drop-off area at the building's main entrance. With this, appropriate one-way signage is to be installed along with painted directional arrows on the drive aisles. Parking has been located in the interior side yards where it will be, along with the drop-off area, include a 4-meter wide planting strips along the street line in accordance with the zoning bylaw. A total of 24 parking spaces are provided, which will include 2 barrier-free spaces in accordance with the zoning bylaw. The proposed development will be serviced by municipal water and sewage. This plan also provides adequate space for garbage collection. Lastly, dedicated pedestrian walkways are provided to connect building access to the public sidewalk network. Pre-consultation with Napanee staff was completed in August of 2025. Since then, the owner has been working diligently to complete all required technical supporting studies and planning approvals in order to permit the proposed childcare facility. From August to December of 2025, a site plan has been prepared, a planning justification report and stormwater management report have also been prepared, along with a traffic brief and noise assessment. A rezoning application was filed in November of 2025 and deemed complete in January upon receipt of the planning justification report. I would like now to take a moment to summarize the studies and technical and the studies that have been prepared. Regarding stormwater management, a stormwater management report was completed by Forefront Engineering to confirm compliance with applicable municipal and provincial stormwater management criteria. With respect to quantity control, Forefront concludes post-development runoff rates will not exceed existing pre-development conditions. They also confirmed there will be no impacts to adjacent properties or downstream drainage systems resulting from the proposed site plan. With respect to quality control, Forefront concludes on-site infiltration and landscaped areas will ensure runoff is appropriately treated prior to discharge. Along with that, erosion sediment control measures are recommended to be implemented during construction. In summary, with respect to stormwater management, the proposed development can provide adequate stormwater management and that no off-site stormwater improvements are required. As Newburgh Road is of which the site has frontage and gains access from is under Lennox and Addington jurisdiction, a traffic brief has been completed by CGH Transportation in support of the proposed development and specifically to analyze potential traffic-related impacts on the county's road network. CGH reviewed a number of factors and sources, such as the County of Lennox and Addington Transportation Impact Assessment and Intersection Control Study Guidelines, and completed traffic modeling using industry standard software for both existing and future conditions. 82 two-way vehicle trips during AM peak hour and 81 trips during the PM peak hour are estimated. Based on their analysis, CGH concludes the site accesses are anticipated to operate under future conditions at a level of service A or B during peak hours. CGH also concludes based on a site-specific first principles approach, along with their analysis of verified information provided by the applicant from their existing childcare facility at 824 Palace Road, that there is justification for providing 24 parking spaces. Regarding potential noise impacts, the proposed development is generally a commercial use, but is technically a community facility use under the zoning bylaw and is considered sensitive on this basis. With that, a noise assessment has been completed by state-of-the-art acoustic, who evaluated primary noise sources and potential transportation related noise from nearby Hydro 1 facility, along with Highway 401, Newburgh Road, and Center Street North. The noise engineer indicates the proposed outdoor play areas and building facades are primary sensitive points of reception, but concludes daytime traffic noise levels are predicted to be below 55 decibels. The Ministry of the Environment, Conservation and Parks NPC 300 guideline daytime limit. With this, no mitigation measures such as noise barriers, berms, specialized facade construction, or warning clauses are required, and that the proposed childcare facility could operate safely and comfortably. Moving now to the requested site-specific zone provisions for the proposed development, being a minimum lot area of 0.2 hectares and a minimum rear yard of 5 meters. Not seen on this chart, which only illustrates the community facility performance standards, a site-specific provision is also requested for minimum off-street parking requirement of 1 parking space per 25 square meters of gross floor area, together with parking area and planting strip requirements abutting residential zone to nil. The requested lot area is to be recognized what is an existing lot of record, which may not be required due to general provisions of the zoning bylaw for situations such as this, but it is highlighted to be conservative. The requested rear yard is a result of the facility and functional site requirements that both resulted in the size of the building and its placement on the site due to the drop-off area. To reiterate regarding the requested off-street parking requirement, the provided ratio has been justified by a traffic brief, which has been prepared by a qualified professional. Regarding parking area and planting strip requirements abutting residential zones, privacy fencing will be implemented to the town's satisfaction through site plan control, which will effectively replace the need for planting strips where such compensation is not contemplated currently in the zoning bylaw. In summary, the requested rezoning will permit a childcare facility, community facility use, which we have concluded is consistent with the provincial planning statement and conforms to the County of Lennox and Addington and Greater Napanee official plans. The proposed childcare facility represents orderly and desirable development at a suitable location that is compatible with surrounding residential context. It is also complementary use to nearby residential development and will incorporate buffering to ensure compatibility with adjacent residential uses. All zoning bylaw provisions can be satisfied except the minimum rear yard parking and parking area related provisions that I just highlighted. Lastly, the stormwater management report, traffic brief, and noise assessment prepared in support of the subject rezoning all conclude feasibility and to represent good planning. This concludes my presentation, and I am available and will do my best to help answer any questions council may have. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Legier. Was there anything you wanted to add before I open up the questions, Mr. Nathan?
Thank you. And at this time, no, just if anything comes from council, I'm available as well. Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks, Dave. Is there any questions or comments of council for either of these gentlemen? Seeing none, we got you off early tonight. So thanks again, Mr. Legier. Thank you, Mr. Nathan. And that will conclude our public meeting. We'll look for a motion to adjourn the public meeting. Moved by Deputy Mayor Calver, seconded by Councilor Martin. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion. Opposed, motion is carried. Presentations. We do have a presentation this evening. I believe it's going to be a live streamed one, if I'm not mistaken, or zoomed in. With respect to our 2024 draft audited financial statements. And I believe we'll be hearing from Lori Huber, if I'm not mistaken.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening, Lori, and welcome to our council chambers once again. It's always good to see you. So whenever you're ready, the floor will be yours.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much. Good evening, Council. It's my real pleasure to be here before you to share with you the highlights of our audit for the year ended December 31, 2024. I have given you quite a fulsome package as part of our report here tonight. And what I would propose to do is share with you the highlights. And as always, if there are any questions, certainly would welcome to answer those upon completion of the highlights. So with that, perhaps we can move to slide number 5 on the bottom right-hand corner of our report, and that should say status at the top of the page. So where we are today with respect to the audit is we are largely complete, save for a few housekeeping items that we need to complete our file before final release of our audit report. But certainly we are in good shape with hopefully a couple of the final pieces coming from the town solicitors, ideally in the next couple of days. So certainly stay tuned for those. They are largely administrative in nature at this stage, but certainly if there's anything uniquely different that we weren't planning, we will certainly reconvene the discussions as appropriate. So with that, we'll jump into the next slide to share with you just at a very high level what was new and different for fiscal 2024. As you may recall, I was before council not that long ago, actually, to share with you the highlights of the 2023 audit. At that time, there were some significant new standards, particularly related to asset retirement obligations. This year, fortunately, although there are 3 on the page here before you, they were certainly a much lighter lift in terms of the impacts of the change, and really the one to bring to your attention for interest. You'll see it articulated in the notes to the financial statements, but there were some changes to specific revenue streams in municipal government this year with the changes that were made for PS 3400. So in the grand scheme of things, relatively minor, and certainly pleased with the work that the team did to undertake the implementation of these new standards this year. Moving along, likely one of the most important pieces of any financial statement audit is materiality, and you'll see that on the next couple of slides. So just to bring you up to speed with what the concept means, it really sort of sets the table in terms of the level and detail that we undertake to complete our audit work and ultimately opine on the financial statements. So on page number 8, you will see there are benchmarks that are common for municipal governments that we use to set the stage for materiality. And you can see there really the high level piece to bring to your attention for fiscal 2024. As you grow in terms of your operations, in terms of your level of business, those benchmarks increase. Generally speaking, so does our materiality. So you can see that we did increase materiality for 2024 by $50,000. So our overall financial reporting materiality for this current year under audit was $650,000 relative to the previous year being $600,000. The handbook will tell us that we can go anywhere between 2 and 3% of those gross benchmarks. However, we have remained relatively conservative, recognizing it's still sort of early days as we work through the audit. We haven't been your auditor forever. So we did hold the percentage constant this year at a 2% to arrive at that amount. Moving along, I've included on page number 9 a snapshot of the statement of financial position, otherwise known as your balance sheet, which is an integral part of the annual financial statement. So it highlights for you all of the assets and all of the liabilities of the corporation as at the close of business on December 31, 2024. I won't go through into a lot of detail, but what we've tried to do on the right-hand side is give you a little bit of insight in terms of the more significant variances that you would see in 2024 relative to 2023. I will point out to you, though, again, asset retirement obligations was a significant change again this year with updated information from management's engineers. So you will see a fairly dramatic change of about $2 million going down. So certainly in the right direction from a financial perspective. So that was a dramatic change when you look at the line that shows your net financial assets. So last year you were in a debt position, meaning the liabilities exceeded the assets, and you can see that's reverted to a positive position. Below your net financial assets, that's where you see a significant component of your balance sheet is the investments the corporation has made over the course of time at amortized cost for your tangible capital assets. Certainly one of the highlights for fiscal 2024 was the significant addition of about $6 million that went into the water tower. So those are the highlights on the balance sheet. If we go to the next slide on page number 10, similar story, the statement of operations in municipal government highlights for you the total revenues and the total expenses. Your statement does break out the operating and the capital pieces. And if we jump right to the bottom line, for fiscal 2024, the corporation has reported an annual surplus of about $3.7 million. When you look at the captions in terms of the subtotals in the various categories, you can certainly see fiscal 2024 was very consistent with 2023 in aggregate. One of the things I always want to bring to your attention, municipal government statements do require you to report the annual budget. And so it's interesting that you will see a significant variance there. If you jump to the bottom line, the budgeted surplus was $9.8 million. Interestingly enough, the budget and the actual actually don't report on the same basis, and there is a note to reconcile those two, but certainly on the face of it, it would look like the corporation didn't do as well as they had certainly planned from a budgeting perspective. But a nice reminder here is that the budget does not include the investments that were made in tangible capital assets this year, which is almost equal to that amount. So certainly not what you would expect on the face of it. And of course, in municipal government, you often tend to see annual surpluses because that's really the ability to then reinvest back into the business and also make some repayments on long-term debt that don't necessarily flow through in terms of the principal repayments on the statement of operations. Moving on the next slide, just to give you a little bit of insight in terms of the audit work. So our audit approach continues to be what we would say is a risk-based audit approach. So standing back, looking at the financial statements as a whole, you'll see some of the items here in red on the screen. And I'll speak to each of these briefly to give you an insight in terms of why they were considered to be something different than low risk. So at the top of the page, there's a slide following this one that gives you a little bit of insight in terms of management override of controls. I want to say at the outset, it's certainly not unique to the town of Napanee. Any financial statement audit needs to assume or presume the risk of management override of controls that's baked into any financial statement audit in Canada. And that presumption is automatically deemed to be significant. So it's not necessarily unique to yourselves. It's certainly broad-based. And there's nothing really that you could do to get that anything less than significant. That tends to come up a lot in conversations. The other items are relatively unique to yourselves. I'll start with the asset retirement obligations. As we saw on your statement of financial position, it is a large number relative to materiality, and it's still a relatively new concept that was first implemented in 2023. So as it becomes into more of a steady state, I do expect that that risk assessment will go down. The other two, those of you that were there for my presentation back in the fall in fiscal 2023, we had certainly made some remarks, and you'll see those later in this report as well, specifically related to tangible capital assets and financial reporting. So based on those remarks and observations in the previous year, that's why we've made the determination again this year to be something other than low. So jumping ahead a few slides, I'll stop briefly on page number 15. Page number 15 is a good one because we often think about what are the conversations that we should be having as your external auditor with yourselves, being those charged with governance, because you do have an oversight role in terms of financial reporting. So this is a bit of a laundry list to share with you all of the things that we as external auditors are required to share with you under professional standards. Pleased to say that none of those items do exist in terms of findings to share with you here tonight, save for I wouldn't necessarily characterize it as a significant difficulty, but we've certainly continued to make observations around internal controls, specifically around financial reporting, which I'll touch on in a minute. So on slide number 16, you will see again our reported materiality, which was $650,000. Based on the audit level of work that we execute in terms of the specific financial statement captions, we did have a posting threshold in fiscal 2024 to report anything greater than 5% of that number, which in this case, the math worked out to be 32,500. So you will see on the slide following, we did identify some items in the accounts that we would have expected to be recorded that were not. There are 4 entries on slide number 17, but interestingly enough, when you aggregate those together, the impact on the reported annual surplus was just shy of $50,000, which is obviously significantly less than materiality. So those things will be flushed through fiscal 2025 and certainly did not have an impact on our audit opinion, and management certainly agreed with that statement as well. There are corrected items that have also been identified through the course of our audit, and you will see those in detail as part of our appendices to this report. On page number 18, we obviously spend a lot of time and attention on auditing the numbers, but a financial statement audit does also require us to give consideration to the systems, processes, and controls specifically related to internal controls over financial reporting. So we've done that again this year in terms of what is new and different. And again, as I said earlier, there were two significant highlights, I would say, as part of our 2023 report. I'll start with the best news first, and that's on page number 20. We had made some significant observations specifically related to the accounting and the books and records for tangible capital assets. Really pleased to share with you here tonight that the team has done a really great effort to remedy those observations from the last time that we spoke, and have seen really good progress. So really pleased to see that piece, and certainly the adoption of Citywide has certainly enabled that process to happen much more swiftly and much more accurately. If we look at the financial reporting piece, that was the one that we had identified last year as well. I would dare say the financial statement close process, once we closed fiscal 2023, was much more tight in fiscal 2024. However, based on the volume of activity that we did see through the course of the audit, I still think there's some room for improvement. We're certainly trending in the right direction, and I have no doubt with the team that you do have on staff that that will continue to be the case in future years. In terms of our independence, that's really the beauty that we bring to the table in terms of the external set of eyes as we come in and review the accounts and ultimately opine on the financial statements. We need to be mindful of any non-audit services that we might provide to the corporation through the course of the year to make sure that none of those would encroach on our ability to be independent. Pleased to say that there's nothing from our point of view that is meant to possibly expose us as a threat to our independence. So certainly nothing from our point of view relative to that matter. That takes us really to our single deliverable after a lot of hard work and time and effort, which starts on page number 24, which I've included in this report, which is a reproduction from the financial statements as well, which is our independent auditor's report. The body and content of the report has not changed year over year. And you can see the report is in draft, subject to ultimately council's approval and the completion of the final few housekeeping items we need to round out our file. But it is a draft opinion that is a clean opinion that states, in our opinion, we believe the financial statements do present fairly in all material respects the financial activities of the corporation for the year ended December 31, 2024. That really takes me to the end of the pieces that I wanted to specifically highlight for your attention tonight. Perhaps, if I may, I will turn things back to yourselves and welcome any questions from the group.
Thanks, Lori. Just hang tight. We'll see if we have any questions of council. Council, do you have any questions of Ms. Huber with respect to her presentation or the report that's in front of us this evening? Councilor Shank, go ahead.
Lori, isn't it? Correct?
Yes.
So, Lori, yeah, very in-depth. To make it in layman's terms, we are doing a lot better this year than we did in 2023, correct? You see significant improvements in all aspects.
So if I may, through you, Mr. Chair, perhaps I'll just ask that question a little bit differently in terms of the quality of the books and records in the financial team's preparation for audit. Absolutely, yes. A remarkable improvement. Certainly even in the timeline, just for your information, we started the audit really in November, and here we are today on February 10th in a position to be able to provide you this report, which relative to the previous year, it did extend over quite an extended period of time.
Thank you. That's what I just wanted to make sure that was clip and clear.
Yep, and thank you for mentioning that, Mike. Is there anything else? Seeing none, thank you very much, Lori. And it's always nice to see you. And I'm sure that we'll see you in the not too distant future for the 2025 audit.
Wonderful. Thank you. Looking forward to it. Have a good rest of your evening. Bye for now.
Great. Thanks. And thanks again. Council will look for a motion that the presentation of the audit findings report for the year end December 31st, 2024 be received, and for the presentation of the draft consolidated financial statements for the year end in December 31st, 2024 be received, and further that the consolidated draft financial statements of the Corporation of the Town of Greater Napanee for the year ended December 31st, 2024 be approved. Deputy Mayor Calver, seconded by Councillor Norrie. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? The motion's carried. Scheduled deputations, new items, I don't believe we have any. Deputations, items on the agenda, I don't believe we have any. Correspondence, items on the agenda, I don't believe we have any. Gets us into unfinished business. I don't believe we have any unfinished business, and that takes us directly into the administrative consent agenda. So we'll start off with the council minutes of the regular session of council January 27, 2026, and the special session of council February 3rd, 2026. Is there anything in those minutes that anyone had any questions or comments about? Seeing none. Next up is the committee minutes. The Community Initiatives Fund Committee, the Municipal Heritage Committee, Market Square Advisory Committee, and the Recreation Advisory Committee, and the Arts Advisory Committee. And I believe that some members of council want to speak to that. So we'll go to Councillor Martin. I think you want to speak to the Heritage Committee?
Correct. Thank you, Mayor. I won't go through the minutes certainly, but I did want to bring everybody's attention to the fact that the Heritage Week is Monday, February 16th to February 22nd. And also for Heritage this year, the Heritage Committee has placed 24 enlarged reproduction photos in the corridor of the hospital, leading down to the clinic area of the general hospital. Sort of a memory lane, if you will, of days gone by. If you have a chance, I'd like people to check it out. Maybe you'll be up at the hospital and need to kill some time waiting for a patient or whatever. So I hope everybody takes advantage of that. And it's going to be in, let me see if I can find the day here. It's going to be in place from February 13th to April the 6th. So it'll take in the Heritage Week as well as go beyond that. So I just want to thank the folks at L&A Hospital for allowing us to do that as well. Thank you, Mayor. That's it.
Thank you. Well said, Ms. Councillor Martin. Councillor Norrie, did you want to make any comments with respect to your committee?
Just a general reminder, the first in a number of years Arts Awards Night, February 26th at the Doghouse Studio, 7 p.m. Public's welcome to attend. No cover charge. Just to honor these awards that are listed there.
Great, thanks. I'm sure it'll be a fun event. So thanks, Bob. Is there anything else that anyone wants to mention with respect to those committees? Seeing none, correspondence for information dated, items dated February 10th, 2026. Are there any items of correspondence that anyone would like to speak to? Seeing none, proclamation and flag raising ceremony request, the coldest night of the year. Is there anything in that report that anyone would like to make comment about? Seeing none, boards and advisory committees monthly report for February 2026. Anything in those reports? Anyone had any questions or comments about? Seeing none, Fire Department Ontario Fire Protection Grant Award. Is there anything in that report that anyone had any comments or questions about? Seeing none, Executive Services, High Speed Rail, Alto. Is there anything in that report that anybody had any questions or comments about? Deputy Mayor Gower.
Yeah, through your worship. Realizing this is a federal initiative, we don't have a lot of legs to run with this. I'm just wondering though, if we shouldn't try to have a meeting with these people from Altero at some point to see exactly what is planned out there. There's a lot of information flying around through the neighborhoods and lots of phone calls happening, and it'd just be nice to have a little more clarity. And just food for thought. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Calver. And I don't know if Mr. Grant, you want to comment on, I think we do have a staff member that's going to attend an open house, if I'm not mistaken. And subsequent to that, I'm sure that staff will bring back some information and then we can move forward from there. Am I correct?
We have received an invitation to attend the public open house to get further information on where the plan sits. And I would remind council that it has shifted quite a bit. And so I'm hopeful that the information received at that meeting will be fairly solid. At that point, it is our intention to bring back a report and schedule any further meetings should council want to. If it is the will of council to do something earlier than that, we can certainly reach out to try to schedule that.
Thank you, Mr. Grant. Everybody's good with that information?
Thank you.
Yep, great. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Calver. If there's nothing further, we'll look for a motion that council consent to the approval of the following routine items: that the minutes of the regular session of council dated January 27, 2026 and special session of council dated February 3rd, 2026 be adopted as presented, that the Community Initiatives Fund Committee, Municipal Heritage Committee, Market Square Advisory Committee, Recreation Advisory Committee, and the Arts Advisory Committee minutes of January 13th, February 2nd, 2026 be received for information, that the correspondence for information items dated February 10th, 2026 be received, that council endorse the proclamation and the flag raising ceremony request for the coldest night of the year, that council receive for information boards and advisory committees monthly report for February 2026, that council receive for information the Fire Department Ontario Fire Protection Grant Award Report, and further that council authorizes the town of Greater Napanee to enter into an agreement for funding under the provincial Ontario Fire Protection Grant Transfer Payment Agreement in the amount of $52,821.07, and further that council authorizes the following individuals to execute any applications or agreements required under the funding agreement: Terry Richardson, Mayor; Matthew Grant, CAO; Brian Calvary, Deputy Mayor; Jessica Walters, Clerk; Ellen Hamill, Treasurer; and Nathan Murphy, Deputy Treasurer. Look for a motion to note or to receive that. Councillor Shank, second by Councillor Davey. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? The motion's carried. Items for consideration: Environmental Services Draft Solid Waste Bylaw. And Andrew, I think you're going to speak to that. So whenever you get settled in, the floor be yours.
Through your worship, what you have in front of you this evening is a draft solid waste bylaw. We brought this to council a few sessions ago in a draft form with some proposed changes, some different language, and some input from some different departments. What you have in front of you is the finalized draft version of the bylaw, which includes input from several departments, including the Clerk's Department, Public Works Department, Environmental Services, and some feedback from staff as well. Notable changes are the removing of the reference from recycling, allowing commercial premises to use our waste facilities for recycling, cleaning up some language that's been an issue in the past, bringing the fines and enforcement language up to today's standards in the bylaws that the town has been updating, and I'm available for any questions.
Thank you, Andrew. Is there any questions or comments with respect to Andrew's presentation or the report that's in front of us this evening? Seeing none, we do have a recommendation that council receive for information the Environmental Services Draft Solid Waste Bylaw Report, and further that council direct staff to bring forward the draft bylaw as presented to the next meeting for adoption. Moved by Councillor Shank, second by Councillor Davey. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. 2025 Annual Drinking Water, Wastewater Treatment, Wastewater Collection, and Stormwater Management Reports. Welcome, Sarah. And you probably haven't seen the new microphones, but all you got to do is push the button. If the light's on, you're live. And then when you're done talking, you just got to push and the light will go off. So welcome, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. So through your worship, I present to council a summary of the 2025 utilities annual reports. So the town is required to produce annual reports on their drinking water systems under Regulation 170, which is the Drinking Water Systems Reg. So this includes the Ale Defo, Sandhurst Shores, and the North Fred drinking water systems. The North Fred Hall falls under this regulation due to its intended use as being classified as a designated facility, meaning that it has been used in the past for children's activities. So just in summary, at the AL Defo water treatment plant, total volume of treated water was over 365 million gallons, which is roughly an increase of 5% compared to last year. And the average daily treated flow was approximately 44% of the plant design capacity. The total treated flows also slightly increased for Sandhurst Shore system in 2025, seeing an increase of 4% compared to last year. The average daily treated water flow was approximately 13% of design capacity, indicating that the water plant continues to have significant capacity for any future growth down there. And there were no adverse samples in 2025 for any of the drinking water systems, which is great. So the town's ECA for the wastewater plant also requires an annual report. In summary, the volume of treated wastewater was about 5% lower than seen in 2024. However, this volume is still about 33% higher than the treated volume being distributed from the AL Defo water treatment plant, which is largely related to inflow and infiltration issues. So generally, during dry months from July to September, the average treated daily flow was about 45% of design capacity, whereas the average capacity throughout the entire year was about 70% of design capacity. To note, once complete, the new wastewater plant will obviously have much higher capacity for instantaneous flows during precipitation events, while also improving any effluent quality. The town also has environmental compliance approvals for the wastewater collection system and the stormwater management systems, which are part of a new province-wide environmental permission for both systems, and they also both require an annual report. So within the wastewater collection system, utilities operators routinely perform calibration, maintenance, and repair activities as required for all 7 of the sewage lift stations, as well as the leachate pumping station. Sanitary sewer flushing and camera inspections are also conducted annually to identify any areas of concern. Stormwater generally falls under the responsibility of Public Works, and each stormwater pond is routinely inspected for drainage, erosion, or safety concerns. In 2025, a qualified consultant was hired to conduct sediment surveys on 2 of the older ponds at Beverly Street and the Best and Bash Arena. And the Beverly Street pond was recommended to be cleaned out, and this is expected to be completed in 2026. That's it. Thank you.
Great, just hang tight, Sarah. We'll see if anybody has any questions or comments for you with respect to your presentation or the report that's in front of us. Deputy Mayor Gower.
Thank you, through your worship. Excellent report, very well detailed. Thank you. I just want to verify the 70% capacity for the wastewater treatment plant in our higher months. Is that's accurate? 70%. We're at 70% capacity.
So that, through your worship, that's an average throughout the entire year. I think there was 52 days where the average flows were above plant capacity, and we had 11 bypass events, which means they bypassed the secondary treatment, sorry. So yes, that is correct.
Okay, thank you. No, just because I know there was a few years back before we were just repairing some of our infrastructure where we were a lot higher than that. I just want to make that clear that, you know, we're doing pretty good for the
We've been
age
working
of the
on
plant.
focusing on those issues.
Excellent. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Mayor Gower, and thank you, Sarah. Is there any other comments or questions? Yep, go ahead, Councillor Shank.
It's more of a information for me to learn even more. Can never stop learning. They 33% higher than treated water flow. So is that stormwater or is that cracks in the line? Because when I just did the calculation, it was like 766,000 gallons or imperial gallons. I'm going, holy smackers, is that?
Yeah, so through your worship, generally, yeah, that's inflow from the ground, like groundwater cracks in the pipes, that sort of thing. It's a lot.
That's where the the eavesdrops are still going into the stormwater. So I'm just trying to see how we can correct those in future. You know what I mean? Because we have those 1 in 100-year floods and stuff like this that I want to, you know, make sure it doesn't go into the Napanee River, but at the same time, you know, rather than a bypass, but what can we do to mitigate that through, like, we're looking after some of the worst spots like Center Street and some of the other spots that you area, you know, I just, it's wow when you look at the volume of how much actually gets into the system. That's what I was going. That's a lot. Yeah. So I was right. I should have
Yeah, and I know staff has worked very hard to try and rectify some of those issues. I know there was a time and that I see Christy reaching for the microphone, but I know there was a time when that was the way it was supposed to be done, and that's the way that a lot of the houses in the town of Greater Napanee and other municipalities, that's the way they dealt with that. So, but I see Christy, go ahead if you want. Did you want to comment?
Sure, through your worship, just to add, we don't have any known cross connections between stormwater and sanitary. However, there is a lot of dated infrastructure that likely has cracks in our sanitary that we see a significant inflow and infiltration during wet events, snow melts, significant rain events, and that sort of thing. Some recent projects, maybe not so recent now, but the Dundas Street was one where we've seen a significant reduction in our average daily flow at the wastewater treatment plant as a result of tightening up some of those cracks in the system, essentially. We hope that moving forward, some things like the Center Street and some other major infrastructure projects will help us along the way, but certainly the added capacity with the new wastewater treatment facility will aid in that as well.
Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
The only reason why I was at a meeting years ago, and I was told that Toronto loses 1 million gallons a day. They have no idea where it comes from. You know what I mean? Because, you know, how do they get rid of all their snow? So the amount of salt they put in, and that goes into cast, you know, old steel pipes, and of course they're corroding over time. So that's the reason why I kind of look at those things and I go, where can we tighten it? What can we do and whatever? But thank you very much for the report. Figure I had at least ask one question. There you go. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks, Mike. Is there anything else? Seeing none, we do have a recommendation. Council received for information 2025 annual reports for the AL Dayfo Napanee drinking water system, the Santerre Shores drinking water system, the North Red Community Center drinking water system, and the Napanee Water Pollution Control Plant, the Napanee Wastewater Collection System, and the Napanee Stormwater Management System. Seems like a lot of systems. Moved by Deputy Mayor Calver, seconded by Councillor Martin. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion. Opposed, the motion is carried. Growth and infrastructure, 12 Market Square land sale. Mr. Nobes, the floor will be yours when you get settled in.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you to Council. So I'm here presenting the 12 Market Square land sale report in line with the town's new land sale bylaw for in the interest of public transparency. So we had discussed this in closed session previously, but following Council's direction, staff have signed back the offer to purchase the property, and this is the next step in our land sale process. So to provide an overview for Council again and for the general public, we had 12 Market Square listed for sale at $495,000 on August 20th with an offer date of October 15th, but we received no offers by that offer date. We did receive subsequent offers following that date, but were ultimately not accepted by Council. The asking price was then lowered in November to $395,000 to drum up more market interest, which we did see some more interest from. So on January 21st, we received an offer from Mr. Deepak Dhanani, and the offer was subsequently updated following that initial submission. And the updates really were to effectively remove the conditional period and the conditions associated with the offer that was initially provided. Because between the time that the offer was supplied and the date of the revision, they were confident that they had done enough due diligence that they were willing to waive that conditional period, and that was presented to Council in closed session. So the offer highlights are the purchase price of $380,000 plus HST, $25,000 deposit, March 30th of this year closing date, no conditional period, and the proposed use of the building and the property is for a pharmacy coupled with a medical walk-in clinic. So the purchaser has identified that they have experience in developing and operating these facilities in Belleville, the Quinty IDA pharmacy, and in Trenton with the Trent Remedies RX facility. So following council's direction on January 27th to sign back the offer, ultimately this report and presentation is to provide the public transparency of the offer that ultimately has been received and accepted by the town. From staff's perspective, and we talked about this in closed session, it's a very clean offer, very close to the asking price, no conditional period. And ultimately, staff are recommending that council pass the bylaw to authorize this transfer to occur on March 30th for $380,000 plus HST. And staff do recommend that council waive our conditions on the sale. And effectively, what our conditions are is a one final opportunity for council to potentially reconsider any previously accepted offer with no liability to the town. So it's very much a condition that's in favor of the seller, which you don't often see. But in this case, given that the town is a municipality, these are often put in place for sale of municipal properties. The net proceeds that we would see are just over $350,000. And as per previous council direction, those proceeds would be directed to the Market Square Reserve, which would be utilized for revitalization of both the exterior of Town Hall and Market Square, and as well as the interior works and design works that are underway. And I would be happy to answer any questions that council might have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nobes. Is there any questions or comments for Michael with respect to his report or the presentation we heard this evening? Seeing none, thank you, Michael, for the work on this. It's always good news when we can sell some property that's been surplused, and obviously there's another group that has some interest in the Napanee area, which is always nice. So thank you for that. Recommendation that council receive for information the growth and infrastructure 12 Market Square land sale report, and further that council pass a bylaw to authorize sale of 12 Market Square to DIPAC Donani for $380,000 plus HST, and further that council waive the town's conditions for the sale of the property. Moved by Councillor Shank, seconded by Councillor Davey. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? The motion is carried. Next matter, growth and infrastructure investment attraction strategy. And Michael, I think you're going to speak to that one as well. And I've got 11.4 is growth infrastructure investment attraction. Unless I
think the order accidentally got updated when we had to swap out an attachment on a different report earlier today.
So which one do we want to do next then?
Up to you.
Okay, well, let's, I guess we'll stick to the updated one, Mike. We'll go with growth and infrastructure planning application fee.
Thank you, and through you. So staff have prepared the staff report as part of the agenda, which again builds on the overarching 2026 budget review and larger organizational fees and charges review. Just this staff report specific to the planning review of application fees with consideration for comparator and neighboring municipal fees. The report built upon the preliminary findings which were presented to council at the January 8th, 2026 meeting. So just as a refresher, though, it's in the report, the town most recently did a fulsome update of planning fees through bylaw 2020-0046. So it's been over 5 years. So this is an appropriate time to do a fulsome review. To assess how the town compares with municipal comparators, staff completed a review of 6 municipal planning departments, as well as a detailed review of the towns. And this just included a quick review of staffing composition, salaries, cost recovery components, and annual applications processed. What was found and summarized through the table, just to highlight, so the town approximately per full-time employee process 35 applications per staff member, which is fairly high when considering how other municipalities are operating based on the table. However, our cost recovery is significantly lower with consideration for that annual application number and our staffing complement salaries. So this identifies a discrepancy with respect to application fees. Staff review of application fees among the municipalities reviewed is broken down in the report and is shown as a comparator fee average. It's significantly higher than Napanese rates. So staff are proposing an increase for all planning applications in accordance with the findings of the report. The intent is to still keep the town competitive in terms of being below the average that staff have identified, being below that competitor advantage or average, pardon me. But if we increase rates as proposed, we're anticipating annual revenue of an additional $74,250 approximately. The fee increases proposed are also intended to reflect the town's ongoing efforts to reduce exterior subcontracted planning efforts for larger applications and to keep that work in-house. Subject to support for the findings of the report, staff would like to move forward with amending a bylaw and preparing an updated fee schedule for planning fees. And if there's any questions or comments for the nature of the report or my presentation, I'm available. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Dave. Is there any questions or comments with respect to Dave's report or the presentation we heard this evening? Councillor Shank.
No, Dave and Mike or whoever had their say into it. As a business model, when you're looking at it, we have 2 staff. We have an average of 70 applicants. All right. So we're getting a pretty good bang for the buck. And if you're going to increase your revenue by another $70,000, that we're still under 50% cost recovery, but you're a lot better. You know what I mean? And it's kudos to the staff, the work that you're doing compared to, well, here's Loyalist 7 and they do an average of 80. And you know what? Their wage is $744,000. You know, so it just shows you that we're doing 10 less applicants with only 2 people. So kudos to the staff and that you guys are doing. It's I'm saying this because we do recognize what you guys are doing. So I support what we're doing. We're still being competitive and we're still below what the average is or what our cost recovery is. And the staff are doing a great job this way. All right. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Mike. Is there anything else? Seeing none, we do have a recommendation that council receive for information growth and infrastructure planning application fee report, review report, and further council direct staff to prepare a bylaw to increase planning application fees in accordance with those presented within the report, to issue public notice of the proposed fee changes in accordance to the town's public notice policy. Moved by Deputy Mayor Calver, seconded by Councillor Norrie. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? The motion is carried. Now we'll go to growth and infrastructure investment attraction strategy. So go ahead, Mike.
Thank you, Worship, and through you to council. So on the agenda this evening, staff have drafted a strategy for council's consideration for endorsement related to actively attracting industrial developments. So this strategy ultimately builds on what we've already been undertaking to date, but its intent is to signify to the broader development industry the town's desire to see further industrial growth and articulate how the town can support these developments broadly. So we're competing with many other jurisdictions across the province and out of province and in the US. The provincial government recognizes this competition and has signaled a number of times that local level flexibility and willingness to work towards industrial developers' goals and objectives are key in attracting these developments. So we see a lot of expedited timelines, flexibility with fee collection becoming requests of the municipalities, and the province is seeing this in their encouraging local municipalities to adopt some strategies to work with these development proponents. So staff understand and council absolutely understands that industrial growth is what creates a well-balanced community along with residential, commercial, institutional growth as well. It helps enhance and diversify our industrial base and it helps ensure that we have a balanced and ultimately resilient community into the future. So this strategy, in staff's mind, it's going to be very helpful for two reasons. One, to help attract new industry to the community, and to provide opportunities for funding applications. So this type of strategy would be a supplementary material that can be included in funding applications for development of employment lands, increasing service capacity in certain instances. We are aware of a couple of different funding streams that we would be able to leverage this in making a supportive application towards. So we're looking to formalize a lot of the work that we're already doing today for both of these purposes. So the highlights of this policy, and again, we're mostly doing all of this now already, but we're looking to make an investment-friendly service commitment to the development industry. So we would assign a single point of contact for development files and provide ultimately a one-window approach. We would publish service level standards and target timelines for review stages, which we're in the midst of completing now. And we would prioritize these large-scale major projects to get them through the approvals process in an expedited manner. We'd also include concurrent municipal review. So that would include planning level review from multiple agencies as well as building permit level review. So when the development proponents come through the door and they're nearly shovel ready, they can provide their planning level applications and their building permit level applications. And we're not going to hold one up over another. We proceed with review of both concurrently. Under our industrial community improvement plan, we have the tax increment equivalent grant. So this has been leveraged by Goodyear and was very instrumental in securing Goodyear's expansion a couple of years ago. So we would look to build on the success of that. And really what that is effectively a deferred revenue mechanism. So it provides flexibility for these developments to realize accessibility to large amounts of capital at the onset of operations following the heavy construction stage. So it provides a balanced approach to both attract the investment and to maintain the long-term municipal fiscal responsibility. Additionally, development charge payment timing is another item that is within the town's control. So staff would recommend, similar to how the province has mandated for residential development charge deferral of collection, we would apply that to these larger scale projects. And this is in line with the community improvement plan to date, but this strategy would help to formalize this outside of that as a standalone document. So we could look at deferral of payments to occupancy or installment payments. This wouldn't be waiving the fees, but it would be similar to the tax granting, which would result in a deferred collection of that revenue and provide that capital, that freed up capital for the developers as they're in that construction stage and at the onset of their operations. And lastly, we would look to make our employment lands more project ready. So that would mean coordination of infrastructure planning to support designated employment area development to get these lands ready to go. So that would be pre-servicing some of the town's lands. There are private lands that are already serviced front onto Kimmett Side Road, Van Leuven Road, Goodyear Road, and beyond. So investing in this infrastructure would support both existing and prospective investments through either direct town work or our advocacy with coordination of upper levels of government. So potentially infrastructure planning related to roads, for example. So while we can influence these approaches at the local level here, there are some external factors that we really don't have any control over. So that would be labor market conditions, supply chain constraints, provincial or federal approval timelines, and external agency utility capacity constraints, geopolitical climate or macroeconomic interest rate conditions. So we can make attractive what we can control, but there are items that we really truly have no control over ultimately, and that may impact where a developer might land their project ultimately. So staff's recommendation is to make the town as attractive as we reasonably can and not put any undue financial strain on the town, but signal to the development community and the province and abroad that we are ultimately business ready and business friendly here. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions on the draft strategy and welcome any comments that council might have.
Great, thanks, Michael. Is there any questions or comments from Michael with respect to the report or the presentation before us this evening? Seeing none, just thanks, Mike. It's progressive thinking like this that's going to put us head and shoulders above our competing competitors, municipalities. And I want to thank you for putting this together, and thank you and your team for the hard work that we've done so far. And I see nothing but good things coming in the future. So thanks again. We do have a recommendation the council receive for information, growth and infrastructure investment attraction strategy report, and for that council endorse the investment attraction strategy included within this agenda. Moved by Councillor Davey, seconded by Councillor Shank. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? The motion is carried. Growth and infrastructure delegated authority for planning applications. Not sure, Mr. Nanton or Mr. Nobes, you're going to start?
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you to council. So to speak to the staffing report prepared for delegated authority for planning applications. So this has been prepared, the staff report, in advance of an organizational-wide bylaw to provide for delegation of certain powers. But we wanted to pull out some of the planning pieces for discussion as we thought that would be of value. So just the background, so authorized through the Ontario Planning Act, council can delegate approval authority for certain applications to be designated to staff members or a committee. The purpose and value ultimately of delegating authority is to aid in achieving timely approval of select functions and applications and reduce some administrative burden related to processing of applications. The staff report provided through the agenda outlines the functions that staff are seeking to have delegated by council, as well as details for how staff intend to use delegated powers if granted by council. So these items, I'm just going to go through itemized and then just kind of highlight some of the key points from them. So one of the items to be requested to be delegated is consent. So council can delegate the approval of consent applications to staff under the Act. And this would permit staff to approve consent applications for lot creation, lot additions, and easements as well. It's important to note that while staff would have the authority to approve a consent application, the requirements for public notification under the Act are still in place. So in practice, staff would continue the same processes of circulating public notices, and where applications would receive no public comments, agency comments of concern, the like, or anything from the committee or council, staff would then be able to move forward with a decision for an application. As part of this request for delegated authority or power, staff are also planning to enhance their circulation practices to members of the committee and council. And this is just to ensure line of sight on applications and development of the community is maintained, even if delegated authority is passed over to staff. And again, wherever members of the public agencies or members of council note concerns with an application, the intent here is the application would then be brought to a public meeting similar to that of which we had this evening. As outlined in the staff report, we deal with a number of consent applications in the town, typically up to about 32. Staff anticipate that if this was delegated to staff, we could save upwards of 128 staff hours over the course of a year, which is substantial. It's almost 3 weeks of dedicated time that we could free up some capacity and demand for the program department. Moving on, certificates of validation is another area we're seeking delegated. We don't receive a lot of these. These applications are specific to resolve a breach of the Planning Act. It's very technical in nature, sort of similar to a consent, and the same process would follow in terms of how we notify and where we bring it to a meeting or not. The next item to discuss is site plan control approval. This is currently delegated to the General Manager of Growth and Infrastructure, that being Mr. Nobes. No change in that role and function as it operates now as proposed. This is just further kind of ironing out through the bylaw what's being proposed. The next item in the staff report was extensions of draft plan approval. Granted extension of an approved draft plan of subdivision, which would have been considered and approved by council, is more of a technical function. So staff are just seeking to receive this delegated authority to do it in a timely manner. Typically, proponents and owners might be on the 13th hour when they're looking for extensions of draft plan approval. This just helps staff be nimble. Next item was minor zoning bylaw amendments and lifting of holding symbols. Currently, the town doesn't have a minor zoning bylaw amendment. We might look to bring one into the future for matters like 342 Center Street that was heard this evening, where it's just specific to additional permitted uses in an existing building, very specific and scoped, but it's something that council can approve to delegate should we bring those types of applications forward in the future. We are requesting to be delegated authority for lifting of holding symbols. These are typically applied to require site plan approval. So council has an opportunity to review the application, approve it in principle, and then staff through delegated authority work through site plan control. Lifting of holding symbols related, so it's a fairly consistent technical matter we believe would be alleviating some of the administrative burden. The next item in the staff report is refunding all or part of application fees. So currently, the only way to refund any fees or an applicant or proponent to request such is to come in front of council and request that. The province has removed the requirements for pre-consultation for an application. This used to be more of a process where people come in front, let us know what they're doing. We let them know if there's a sense of whether it can be supported or not. So we do sometimes receive applications that just cannot be supported. This would give us an opportunity to receive a submission package, review it, and be able to provide back an opportunity to say, we're not going to be supporting this at a staff level. Here are the reasons why. Would you like a refund? So that's kind of where that's coming from. The final two are more administrative. So duties of Secretary Treasurer, as established through the annual Committee of Adjustment bylaw, staff are just seeking to have the clerk or designate continue to fulfill these roles. And then finally, administration of prescribed duties of the Committee of Adjustment, as established through the same bylaw, staff are seeking to have the Director of Development Services or designate facilitate the administrative or prescribed duties of the committee. And then in summary, the requested planning applications and functions to be delegated to staff are not exhaustive. We could have, tried to ask for all of it, but we've scoped it to what we believe is appropriate to continue to have council have line of sight on applications and development proposals happening in the community. But we do believe that some of the delegated authorities would really help alleviate some of the administrative burdens.
Yep, go ahead, Mr. Knowles.
Yeah, thank you, Worship. I just wanted to echo Mr. Nayan's comments. The intent here is really to say grab the low-hanging fruit of the smaller level items that would save a lot of staff time, given how lean we are today. The intent is not to take away any power from council at all. The intent would be to give council the circulation of these applications, just so council can see what's going on, and have the mechanism to, let's call it a bump up. So if any member of council says, I want to bring this to council for discussion, that'd be built in as an element to that delegated authority bylaw itself. But the intent here is really just to streamline operations, ultimately, is what it is, working with the lean department that we have today.
Thanks, Mike. Is there any questions for either Mike or Dave with respect to the presentation of the report? Seeing none, the only thing I've got, Mike, is that obviously these types of delegations of authorities are being done in other municipalities as well. Like, we're not special where we're trying to delegate something that nobody else is doing. These are things that are probably being done in other municipalities and have been done in other municipalities for some time.
Thank you. And through you, that's correct. Most municipalities have delegated these types of authorities to the staffing level to simply alleviate administrative burden for very straightforward applications that don't have a lot of public interest.
Great, thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Grant.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, I think to respond to that also is you will see the larger municipalities get, the larger the delegation of authority bylaw becomes. There comes a point when the amount of business coming through a municipality is too much to come through the council table nonstop. It's just the way that it is. further to this, council will see the delegation of authority bylaw come back from next week, our next council meeting. And so the way that that's set up is a very slow and calculated approach that specifically lists delegations that already exist, recommends some delegations that we think should exist. And unlike some municipalities where if it's not there, they might assume that we can, ours would be, if it's not on the list, we assume that we can't. And that's how it's designed.
Great, thanks, Matthew. Is there anything else? If not, we do have a recommendation that council receive for information the growth and infrastructure delegated authority for planning application report. Moved by Councillor Davey, second by Councillor Shank. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed, motion carried, and we're at 8:30. I think we'll take a 10-minute break, and then we'll come back about quarter to or 20 to 9. Great. Welcome back, everyone, and thank you for your indulgence. Moving on through the agenda, we have a Growth and Infrastructure PLZACO 2025-068 342 Center Street. Mr. Nanton, you're going to speak to that.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you to council. So as heard this evening at the statutory public meeting, staff prepared a recommendation report for the zoning bylaw amendment application submitted for 342 Center Street. Given no public comments or agent comments of concern were received leading up to or at the public meeting held this evening, staff deemed it appropriate to bring forward a recommendation report in a timely manner, given the application is only seeking to permit additional commercial uses within the walls of an existing building. To quickly summarize, the intent of the application is to rezone the lands from a general industrial zone to a site-specific arterial commercial zone to permit the water filling station and self-serve laundry uses. And also the application seeks to have a definition of a water filling station added to the town zoning bylaw. Staff reviewed the application in detail as outlined within the staff report and found the zoning bylaw is consistent with the PPS, conforms with the policies of the county and town official plans, and will permit appropriate commercial uses on the lands. The holding symbol applied and resulting site plan control process will ensure that site functionality and adequate servicing is achieved for the commercial uses. It is recommended that the zoning bylaw amendment application be approved as presented through the attached bylaw and report, and I'm available for questions or comments. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Dave. Is there any questions or comments for Dave with respect to his presentation or the report that's in front of us this evening? Go ahead. Nope. Seeing none, we have a recommendation that council receive for information the Growth and Infrastructure PLZACO 2025-068 report, and further that as the application is consistent with the provincial planning statement, conforms with the Lennox and Anthem County official plan and the Town of Greater Napanee official plan, implements appropriate land use permissions and controls through the implementing zoning bylaw amendment, and constitutes good land use planning. The council approved the zoning bylaw amendment. Moved by Councillor Shank, second by Councillor Davey. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion is carried. Executive Services Commercial Leasing Policy, Mr. Grant. The floor will be yours when you get settled in.
Okay, through you, Mr. Mayor, to members of council, this will not be the first time you have seen this particular item. So the commercial leasing policy is essentially to provide guidance to staff as to how we determine rates for rent in the leasing environment, how we go about determining those and the different mechanisms by which we can do that, how we deal with defaults on people who are tenants of ours. It also separates, as you may recall, those responsible for, the business of the leasing arrangement, which would be to the clerk and the deputy clerk, from the operational support in that relationship. So we're not mixing the landlord obligations with those of the facility owner obligations. The policy is as it was when it was last presented to you, save the removal of an unnecessary definition and clarifying that it is the clerk and deputy clerk and not necessarily legislative services, but those two individual positions that will oversee commercial leasing. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Grant. Is there any questions or comments from Mr. Grant with respect to his presentation of the report that's in front of us? Seeing none, we do have a recommendation. Council receive for information the Executive Services Commercial Leasing Policy, and further council adopt the commercial leasing policy as presented. Moved by Councillor Shank, second by Councillor Davey. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion is carried. Executive Services Winter Parking Regulations, and Madam Clerk, you're going to speak to that. So whenever we get settled, the floor will be yours.
Thank you, Your Worship. This report is an information report as well as an opportunity if council has any concerns with the direction that staff work on this is trending. We would appreciate that input now. To start with, apologies to Councillor Norrie. This is about 2 years late getting back to you on why we have the winter parking ban rules that we have. But here is information. We did do an assessment of our comparators. This is the same rule that's in place in all of our comparator municipalities, and staff are recommending that we maintain with that rule. This year is a good example as to why it is necessary, as compared to some of the previous years when we've talked about this in a low snow year. We are also looking at, in a future bylaw update, looking at adding in some language around how having different winter parking rules in designated carpool parking stalls, since it is reasonable to leave your car overnight if you are taking the train out of town, and some other housekeeping items. We'll also look to, with council's blessing, add in some special rules for overnight parking in municipal lots that are associated with facilities bookings. For example, for good reason, we do not enforce the no parking overnight when we have a facility booking with alcohol attached, because we would much rather people not be driving those vehicles home. But we don't actually have any official authority mechanism. That's just how we've been operating. So we'd look to clean that up through a policy or bylaw approval. The rest of this is all just background information about why we do the winter parking rules that we do, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Great. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Is there any questions or comments for Jess with respect to the presentation or the report that's in front of us? Seeing none, we do have a recommendation that council receive for information the Executive Services Winter Parking Regulations Report, moved by Councillor Norrie, seconded by Councillor Martin. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion is carried. Executive Services Advisory Committee mandates during election campaign. Go ahead, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. So this report has come about as in our recent by-election, we did have 2 members of advisory committees who were running for office, and it sort of raised the question of how do we intend to manage that in an election period. We know that people who take a keen interest in advisory committees also maybe have a higher than average interest in municipal politics, likely that some of our members might be thinking about running for council. And we just wanted to make really clear what kind of rules do we think we need to have in place, if any, to prevent an advisory committee from being used as somebody's campaigning platform. Staff are proposing that we think it would be reasonable to say in a year of a general election, if we get all of the advisory committees to submit their annual work plan of these are the things we plan to work on, and these are the reports or recommendations council can expect to see from us. Council agrees to that prior to entering the nominations period, and then the committees are expected to hold to that, and no new ideas, new recommendations, anything outside of those lanes just wouldn't be permitted in an election year. Alternatively, the only type of language we saw about this in other policies was just a reiteration that the policy prohibiting use of corporate resources to support an election campaign applies to all committee members. That's certainly another way to approach it. Staff are not recommending any change to the council terms, but it did come up as a point of confusion, and we just wanted to note that the bylaw as it is written says that anyone who is currently on a committee will stay on that committee, will continue meeting after the election and until the next term of council appoints different members at some point in 2027. So just wanted to raise that now since it's related, if council wants to make any different operational choices there.
Great. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Is there any questions or comments for Madam Clerk? Councillor Norrie.
I know I'm going to be asked this by my arts committee with the newly formed awards night that they started up again. How do they plan, if it's going to be February of that year, can they sort of pre-organize something, pre-book something with fingers crossed that it'll be passed by the new council? I'm going to be asked this at my next arts meeting, but you know what I'm trying to say. Some things take a lot of planning, like, you know, more than even the music in the river, by the river, but this thing takes, you know, months ahead. I'm just curious, that's all.
So through your worship, my advice to that committee would be that they should seek specific endorsement of council to say, we want to, like, this year was the trial run, we want to put this back as a recurring event. This is the framework, this is the budget it needs, and we're looking for council to endorse this as an approved event. And I would recommend that they do that before May 1st. I believe Mr. Grant may have had some additional comments.
Yeah, thank you.
I'll pass it on to the group. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Norrie. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Is there anything else? I think the only thing I have, Jess, is that I guess because the committees of council are picked by the sitting council, is that they probably should run in tandem with the sitting council as opposed to extending committees of council into the next term of council, I guess is the best way to put it. Is that, you know what I'm saying is that if our term of council ends in 1st November of 2026, probably should, that's when the committees of council should probably end as well, but that would just be my opinion on that. So look and see if council has any other thoughts on that. Yep, go ahead.
If I may, through your worship, I would just note that as Councillor Norrie raised, if there is an intention to have another Arts Awards banquet, if it's an annual event, you would be losing your entire planning apparatus right in the midst of that event happening, which is why, for continuity purposes, the way our bylaw is set up right now is the most common way of setting these up. But appreciating that the committees are really belong to council, and council can set whatever rules that they want around them.
Yeah, Mr. Grant.
And through you, Mr. Mayor. So should that be the wish, we can explore mechanisms to allow people to run events or other things of the like, or encourage the scheduling of events at different times. But we can certainly look at the different mechanisms to allow work to continue without necessarily having the advisory committee extend past the term of council. That would take some work, but we're happy to look at that and bring something back if that's the will of council.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Grant. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Cower.
I think we just go with status or item number 1 there, status quo, no changes. I mean, obviously, we can't make any changes with our committees and so on and so forth because everything's in lame duck. But to see the good work everybody's doing until the next term of council or the next council is voted in, I don't know. I just think we should just leave it the way it is.
Yep, go ahead, Mr. Grant.
So, and further to that, through you, Mr. Mayor, to members of council, I think also what the clerk has recommended is, as we get into the writ period, and, council doesn't entertain any new business, they effectively become working committees to implement plans that have already been put into place. And so it's not taking a look at, advising on governance decisions. It's more about carrying out the work that has already been approved by the sitting council.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Grant. Is there anything else? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, we do have a recommendation that council receive for information the Executive Services Advisory Committee mandates during election campaign period report, and further that council directs staff to bring forward an amendment to the Advisory Committee's bylaw to address the perceived use of committee meetings as an election campaign platform as follows. In the year of a general election, all proposed advisory committee work for the year must be approved by council no later than April 30th, and no new committee initiatives or recommendations to council outside the scope of the pre-approved work will be presented to council after May 1st in an election year, and further that council directs staff to request a detailed 2026 work plan for all advisory committees by April 15th. Moved by Councillor Davey, seconded by Councillor Shank. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion's Municipal Heritage Committee recommendation, Heritage Awareness Plaquing Policy. Go ahead, Jess.
So through your worship, in 2024, council approved a new heritage awareness plaque policy on the recommendation of the committee. They did some work last fall to promote and launch that program. Part of that was unveiling of a special plaque on the building across the street here, the former fire hall. that plaque was sort of a special variant off of the policy parameters. I know we've had at least one other downtown business owner express interest in that style of a plaque, and the committee is supportive of making that a standardized option that's available. Staff really have no concerns with that. We think it's a reasonable policy amendment, but as our practice is that in our official written recommendations to you, we do leave all committee recommendations in your hands to decide whether to support or not.
Thanks, Jessica. Is there any questions or comments for Jess? And I know that staff are looking for a direction here as well. So I guess the only direction is that if a premise wants a fancier plaque, can we help them out? And there'd be no additional costs because the additional costs would be absorbed by the heritage building that the plaque is going on, or the owners of the heritage building the plaque is going on. Am I correct there?
So through your worship, we currently have two streams right now. If it's a designated building, we have the granite plaques. There's a few of them around town. We haven't done one in several years, but we do have them on quite a few of our designated buildings. And the policy supports those fully at the town's expense for the remainder of our designated buildings, if and when we ever coordinate that with the property owners. This one is just to celebrate local heritage. These are not designated properties. They're just properties that have a heritage that the owners want to celebrate. And they are at the owner expense, although the policy does support up to 10 per year being sponsored by the committee through the committee's budget, if that's an application that's put forward.
Great. Thanks, Jess. Is there any questions or comments? Seeing none. Councillor, we have a recommendation that council receive for information the Municipal Heritage Committee recommendation Heritage Awareness Plaquing Policy, and further that Heritage Plaque Program Policy LS 2024-01 be amended to add new section 7.2D, which reads, this policy also supports an alternate heritage awareness plaque design, which measures 12 inches wide by 10 inches high and includes up to 2 images with any additional costs being borne by the applicant. And council, are we good with that recommendation or motion? Moved by Deputy Mayor Cower, second by Councillor Martin. Is there any further comments, questions, or concerns with respect to the motion that's on the floor? Yep, go ahead, Mike.
But the committee recommendation is 10 by 12. Then you go further down, it's 12 by 10. Are we the same? Is it still 10 by 12 or 12 by 10? I just see, I'm not that I'm penny pinching here, but
Through your worship, that's a typo on my end. It is 10 by 12. I was just looking at the one across the street on the way in. It is narrower than it is tall. So we'll make sure that it's correct in the. The current ones, the default is 10 by 6, I believe, and has only text, no pictures. So these are slightly bigger and have the additional pictures.
Yeah, I noticed the same thing, and I just assumed that we were talking about the same thing just because the numbers are same. But yeah, I picked up on the same thing, Mike. So is there anything further with respect to the motion that's on the floor? Seeing none, we'll call the question. All in favor of the motion that's on the floor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Bylaws. First bylaw is bylaw 2026-0016 to regulate sidewalk patios and private patios within the town of Greater Napanee. Look for a motion to put it on the floor. Moved by Councillor Norrie, seconded by Councillor Martin. Ready first, second, and finally passed this 10th day of February 2026. All in favor of the motion? Opposed? Motion is carried. Bylaw number 2026-0017 to amend zoning bylaw 02/22 PLZACO 2025-068. Look for a motion to put it on the floor. Moved by Councillor Davey, second by Councillor Shank. Read it first, second, and finally passed this 10th day of February 2026. All in favor of the motion? Opposed? Motion is carried. Bylaw number 2026-0018 to implement a municipal accommodation tax. Look for a motion, put it on the floor. Moved by Deputy Mayor Cower, seconded by Councillor Martin. Ready first, second, and finally pass this 10th day of February 2026. All in favor of the motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. Bylaw number 2026-0019 to provide for disposition of land, 12 Market Square. Up for motion to put on the floor. Moved by Councillor Shank, second by Councillor Davey. Read a first, second, and finally pass this 10th day of February 2026. All in favor of the motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. And finally, bylaw number 2026-0020 to adopt utility rates for 2026 and amend bylaw number 2011-007. Motion to put on the floor, moved by Deputy Mayor Calver, second by Councillor Martin. Moved to first, read a first, second, and finally pass this 10th day of February 2026. All in favor of the motion? Opposed? Motion is carried. Information reports from members. Are there any information reports from members this evening? Seeing none. Inquiries, I believe Deputy Mayor Calver, you may have one or two.
Yeah, actually, I just have a couple here. Thank you, through your worship. Last year I brought it up, it was August, September of last year, about visitors staying in somebody's driveway in an RV or a camper trailer for short term as they're visiting around the countryside. They were parked in a specific driveway last year for a couple of weeks. And they had bylaw pay them a visit, and this one pay them a visit. I thought we were going to maybe do something in regards to that as far as changing our bylaws or allowing this to happen. And if we're not, then I'll supply you with a list of about, I don't know, probably 50 or 60 RVs parked on people's properties. But in this particular case, it's a short term. The people are traveling through the country. They park at their neighbors or park at their friend's house for a week or two. Then they go off and then they're back and they're off and they're back. So I just don't know there's something we can do within our bylaws. So I'm just looking for some clarification as to what, so we don't run through that again this summer, because we probably will. That's one thing. What else did I have here? No, that's all I had for that. I think Mr. Mayor is going to speak to the other thing. Thank you.
Yep, great. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Calver. Go ahead, Mr. Nopes.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Worship, and through to Deputy Mayor Calver. I would say it would be appropriate for staff to outline potential implications of any changes through a subsequent follow-up report, just to give council the full picture of what this might entail. I would say we are aware it's a common issue. We respond to these issues on a complaint driven basis. So given the broad number of them, where there are complaints received and valid complaints of potential undue hardship to neighboring properties as a result of the bylaw infraction, that's where staff's efforts are predominantly focused, just given the amount of staff time involved. But I would recommend that staff follow up with a report on the matter.
Okay, thank you. I'll give you the address after the meeting of the one in question for sure. Thank you.
Yep, great. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Calver. Thank you, Mr. Nobes. Is there anything else? If not, I do have one matter that I know I've been approached, and I know that the Deputy Mayor's been approached as well with respect to the intersection at the Walmart. And I understand that there's a bit of an involved story to that, but we've had some inquiries as to the traffic flow there and the safety of that intersection. And I'm just wondering if at some point we can get staff to bring back a report to at least investigate as to whether or not the options that we have with respect to that intersection. I know that intersection was created a number of years ago prior to this council, and the questions we have is obviously with the traffic flow. There's times when it's becoming a little more difficult to get in and out of the Walmart. So just if we could get some type of follow-up or guidance there. And go ahead, Mr. Nobes. I know you're reaching for the microphone.
Yep, through to you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, so we can certainly do that. Just at a high level, we've included in our already in place development charge background study, we're collecting DCs to install traffic lights on Jim Kimmett Boulevard to address this issue. It's flexible in where those would be placed, whether it's at McPherson Drive or at the Walmart intersection. There's some history as well with the Walmart development file when the grocery aspect was installed in there. So there was a development agreement that puts some level of onus on Walmart within a certain period of time to make some potential upgrades there. We'll have to brush up on exactly what those limitations are. But at a high level, staff have recognized and council's recognized through the DC background study that that's in place today. We're collecting monies for in the future installing traffic lights there. We know it's going to need to happen at some point. So we do have that ability to leverage those funds when it's required. But yeah, certainly we'll bring a report back.
No, and I appreciate that. Thank you, Michael. And I'm sure that the public will be thankful for at least the follow up on it for sure. So if there's nothing else, we'll move on to new business. And I don't believe any new business announcements. Are there any announcements anyone would like to make? Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Calver.
Thank you, through your worship. Yeah, I just wanted to just announce today that today is the actual agricultural day supporting Ontario farmers. And I just wanted to put that out there that if you have an opportunity to thank a farmer, especially if you ate today, thank a farmer. There's not much we consume that is not done by our local farmers. So I thank you and each and every one of them.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Calver. Is there any other announcements? Seeing none, CEO's remarks. Mr. Grant, did you wish to make any remarks this evening?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would just point out that I'd like to thank the finance team for all the work that they have done, both on the 23 audit and the 24. And as they start moving to 2025, I would suggest that our house is in order and that there's a tremendous amount of work that it took to get us there. And for that, I'm grateful.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Grant, and very nicely said. Yeah, it's kind of refreshing to be within eyesight of the finish line here. So thank you very much for saying that. The forward calendar, I know we've all had an opportunity to look at the forward calendar. Is there anything in the forward calendar that anyone has any questions or comments about? If not, we'll look for a motion to, oh, sorry, go ahead, Mike.
Just listen to this. It's I think we should, I personally, and I know staff would probably, and all the residents of Greater Napanee would definitely give a heartfelt thank you to the fire department for the difficulty that they've experienced in the last fire. I know their heart and soul goes into what they do, and the stress that it puts on a lot of individuals at the time. Yet tragic. I think they proceeded, and from what I've heard, they did an absolute the best job they could possibly do in a difficult situation. So kudos to them, and it's something that you you don't want them to show up, but thank God they do. Thank you.
Great, thank you, and thank you for mentioning that as well, Mike. So if there's nothing further, we'll look for a motion to confirm for the bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the council of the corporation of the town of Greater Napanee. Moved by Deputy Mayor Calver, second by Councillor Martin. Read a first, second, and finally passed this 10th day of February 2026. All in favor of that motion? Opposed? The motion is carried. A motion to adjourn. Moved by Councillor Shank, second by Councillor Davey. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. Thanks, folks, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.